Hello, everyone. Welcome to our get together where we're going to be launching the IWA and Grundfos Youth Action for SDG 6 final report. It's a pleasure to see you all here. Let's just wait a couple of minutes for the participants to connect, and then we will be starting. And in the meantime, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, say where you're connecting from, and maybe sharing a fun thing about yourself so we can get to know you a little bit better. So, as we are starting this get together, I just want to remind you all that this event is recorded and it's going to be available on our platform afterwards. So, connect to IWA Connect Plus and you'll be able to see this record. Feel free to post questions using the chat function on this, and feel free to interact as much as possible in the chat. We are very keen to have you very engaged in this get together. Some browse rules that I think that are very important for us in all the IWA Young Water Professional events. Please remind yourselves to be polite, be respectful, be present, engage as much as possible, as I mentioned. If you have any questions, don't feel afraid to ask for clarification. And as always, no discrimination to any one of the participants here. You probably know me already, but for those that don't know me yet, my name is Isabella Espíndola, and I am the senior officer responsible for the Young Water Professional within IWA, and I'm also the focal point for this fellowship that IWA has in collaboration with Grundfos. But I will be your host, but I'm not the main speaker, so you're going to be seeing some of the participants from the first cohort of this fellowship explaining what they have done and what is this final report about. I will not share spoilers on it because they are very keen to share their learnings with all of you. In terms of our agenda for today, we'll have a presentation, then a Q&A, and a closing on this. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A function and also to share your concerns in the chat. And my presentation just frozen. I do apologize for this. Technical issues. Just a second. So before I share, I hand over to the fellows. I just want to highlight what is this fellowship about. And this fellowship was established in 2022, and as I mentioned, it's part of collaboration with Grundfos. And it's a connection that we have with Grundfos in our concerns with youth engagement and youth empowerment in the water sector. The first cohort, the participants you can see on the screen, they were also part of our official delegation to the UN Water Conference in 2023. And this fellowship was extended until August 2024. And this final report is related to this extension that we had it. And the first outcome of the fellowship is available online, so you can scan the QR code and download it on this. But today we are going to be talking about this final report, which was co-authored by the first cohort, and it was launched last week as part of our IWA activities and celebrations towards the World Water Day on this. So without further delay, Marina, I will stop sharing and then it's all with you.
Thank you, Isabella. So it's really nice to be here with all of you to present the final outcomes of our fellowship. I'm here with other fellows as well. They are here. You can see them in the camera. And I just want to tell you all also, feel free to join and pop in and have any comments if you want during the presentation. Okay, fellows, if I forget something or if you think something is important. But I had the task today to present for you a little bit more about what was this that we were trying to do? Why do create a youth-led accountability framework for the water action agenda? Where does this idea came from? And what exactly were we doing in terms of this and what is the framework exactly that we have created for. So just to do some warm up, I would like for you to join this Mentimeter and tell me, what do you think about youth? When you hear the word youth, what it comes to your mind? What are the words that for you represent youth? So I'm just going to share here with you also the results that we have, just, so we can have a little warm up, get to know each other better, and see what are your interpretations in terms of youth. What do you think about youth? So fresh, dynamic, creativity, high on energy, inexperienced, energetic, great, challenging, great. Innovation comes a lot, great. Fresh perspectives, keen to learn, freedom. That is great. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for answering this. And as you keep putting some words, I would just like to have a little bit of context. When we ask this question about what it comes to your mind when you talk about youth, when the word youth comes, it depends a lot the results that we are going to have here in terms of for who we are asking this question for. Usually when we are with senior professionals and etc., it can come a lot the one that shows up here that is inexperienced or not mature yet, or some questions that actually comes with a bad bias in terms of what youth means. But when we ask this for some other groups, like for example, the youth itself, it comes a lot, these words like innovation, creativity, energy, a lot of new ideas that we can put in practice and etc. And that's why we decided to create this accountability tool more in terms of a youth-led point of view, because we believe that the youth can give a lot to actually accomplish the different water commitments that we have in the water action agenda, and also to achieve the SDG 6. We think that we can have all of these good ideas of what youth actually means, this innovation, this great energy in terms of actually realizing all of the good things that we have in these commitments and how we can put them in action. And also try to put back these bad ideas that we have in terms of youth, that we don't have the experience, or that we are too impulsive and etc. So this is what was our first idea in terms of how we can actually put youth in action. I'm sorry for Isabella have technical issues. I have dog issues because my dog is barking here. If I will make it stop. So, but exactly what is the water action agenda? How this came up? What is the purpose of the water action agenda? So, as Isabella have already mentioned, in March 2023. We have the UN Water Conference, the first one after a long time without conferences related to water. And we, as this first cohort of the fellowship from Grundfos and IWA, we were the delegates to be part of this fellowship. And as one of the results, one of the actually more actions that we have in terms of the outcomes of the UN 23 Water Conference was that the water action agenda, that this idea that we need clear commitments, pledges, and actions to actually help to achieve the SDG 6 in its full dimension, and also this interdisciplinarity that it has with other SDGs as well, because we know that water goes through all of the SDGs. And how can we do this? How can we actually, they were thinking a lot, how can we actually make space and make an effort to actually achieve these SDGs, to have these commitments, to have these actions. So they have created this platform that is the Water Action Agenda, where they put a lot of, they ask for the community in general to put a lot of these ideas, these actions that they actually want to be put in place, that can be scaled, that can be replicated also in other different contexts and in different years as well. So all of these commitments were compiled in the Water Action Agenda. And that's it for the instance. When we have this in 2023, all of the people put their actions, and they don't actually talk a lot about this anymore. But we have, in the last year, a great review of what it has already been done in this Water Action Agenda or not, and the continuity of how we will see if these actions are actually taking place or not, if they need more feedback or if they need more financial support and etc. We will be part of the discussions and the outcomes of the 2026 UN Water Conference as well. But we, as a part of the fellowship during these 2 years, we were thinking about a lot about this Water Action Agenda, because we were there in the UN Water Conference and we see the effort that they have to put in place this agenda. And we didn't see a lot of people actually talking about this later or seeing if it actually was being achieved or not, any accountability mechanism to actually keep track of the Water Action Agenda. So we were, in one of our meetings, in one of our gatherings, we were like, okay, but what about this Water Action Agenda? It's actually being accountable or not? What are the profile of the commitments that were put there in place? And does it actually involve youth somehow or not? There are a lot of commitments that actually involve the vulnerable communities or not. What is the profile of this agenda? So we decided to do a structured review of all of the commitments based on how they actually impact the SDG 6, if they involve youth or not, if they involve the vulnerable communities or not, how is the geographic representation of the actions, if it's more focused on one place or in another, what is the sectoral representation as well, is it more private sector or NGOs or government actions, also if they present something about the financial viability of the commitment that they are presenting there, and if they also have any type of building in monitoring mechanism so they can be accountable or not. So we pick up the 841 commitments and do a screening of all of them. We had, like, in the report you can see, but we have like different ways to assess each one of these questions that we have here. And as a result, we have seen that the most, like in general, all of the actions seek one SDG, one of the targets of the SDG 6 somehow. There are some of them that they have more than one. They have also presented some SDGs that are not specifically just the 6, that they have interconnections with other SDG as well. But in general forms, they are kind of equilibrated in terms of the different targets of the SDG 6. In terms of vulnerable community as beneficiaries, we have seen that the most vulnerable groups that they were focused on were women, also followed by children and indigenous population. And when we see also more specific terms like poor, slums, or poverty, they were a little bit less. So we understand that the main focus here that these actions were focusing on is in terms of gender equality, and also in terms of these vulnerable communities related to traditional population. And when we look in terms of geographic representation, we have some results here in terms of the people who were proposing and also what are the regions that they were targeting on. So in terms of the proposant, it's funny because like when you are filling the Water Action Agenda form, you can put exactly the country that is proposing. But in terms of target, it's just like the general continent. So it's a little bit difficult to evaluate exactly where is the focus of the target. But we see here that the top proponents are the United States. We also have a lot of proponents from the Global South. And this is really interesting because they are actually concerned about how the water is affecting them. We know that these are generally the most vulnerable communities as well. So we have like Kenya, India, Uganda, South Africa, Nigeria, Indonesia, Mexico, and also the Netherlands. That is not from the Global South, but it's an important proposal as well. And when we see the geographic representation in terms of the target, we can see that Africa and Asia and Pacific are the most target regions. And that makes sense when we look here in terms of the top 10 proposals as well. And in terms of sector representation, we can see that the most, the sector that have most put commitments there are the NGOs, and followed then by the government. Like the NGOs have in terms of 30%, 29% of the commitments, and the government having around 22% of the commitments, and the rest is divided between different sectors. And this is actually very interesting because in terms of the NGOs, we also know that there is a lot concern about the financial viability of these actions, because they actually need funding for doing that. They are somehow, and some of them have financial restrictions or financial like problems in terms of putting this in action. So this is also a great platform, so they can show their work and try to gather funding from this. But this puts us a question about, is this action actually viable or not? And in terms of youth specifically, we have also evaluated how many of these commitments actually involve youth or not. So we have found that 25% of the commitments explicitly involve the youth as partners. So they actually mention the word youth or young or anything that would say youth somehow. And this is like a quarter is okay, but we think this can be better. Like all of the commitments could have youth as partners. We also see that 27% of the commitments explicitly involve the youth as beneficiaries, so people that they are targeting for. And we also think that this can be improved. And when we look in terms of vulnerable communities itself, we can see that 73% of the commitments involve vulnerable community as beneficiaries. And this is actually really good because this should be actually the target of these actions, okay? But one thing comes up to our mind. So now what? We have this, all of this structured review about the water action agenda. But who is keeping track of that? And who actually evaluated? Because we have done a general evaluation of all of these commitments, but how actually deep they are, like how they actually do some difference or not? Are they achieving their target or not? So who is keeping track of that? By the time that we were doing this, we didn't have any news about the UN still, if they were analyzing these commitments or not. We know that later they have done a review themselves about all of this, but by the time we didn't have anything. So we were like, okay, so it's up to us to do this. So we shouldn't just be waiting for someone else to present something. Let us try to propose an accountability tool, a way to actually keep track if these commitments are taking place or not. So we know that this was a great challenge, but we were like, okay, let's do it, because we are youth and we have all of this energy and this dynamic that you have mentioned before during the warm-up session. So, and also I think a good word that can represent youth is crazy, right? We are crazy, and we were like, okay, let's get this major challenge that is facing us, and let's try to do it, okay? So we started thinking about how an accountability actually works, and why this is important. So we have these questions of now what, so what, and we also have in mind that youth actions requires actually an enabling environment. We are not going to involve youth just by saying like, okay, I want the youth to be involved. Okay, but how are you going to do this? We need an actually environment that enables that. And we want to provide this for the others as well. And we also need an intergenerational collaboration. We as youth, we don't think that we are going to solve all the problems of the world. We actually need to work with the seniors professionals as well. We need this intergenerational collaboration really clearly. So understanding all of these aspects that about what we were thinking and what we were wanting with this accountability tool, we have here in this intersection that we understand that the commitment holders must be accountable for engaging youth. So in this way, they can actually have a more have a better way to actually fulfill their water action agenda commitment. And we started to think about the framework itself for the accountability. We have researched a lot. We have done a lot of review in terms of what an accountability actually means, what are the different approaches that we have in terms of accountability. And we have actually liked a lot these two ones that are here highlighted in yellow. That is the youth-centered approach that means choose a methodology that can prioritize the voices, the needs, and the perspective of the youth in the water sector. And also an outcome-oriented approach, because we wanted to emphasize actually what are the outcomes that these commitments are having, how can we measure the impact that they are having, and also include here as part of the stakeholders, the youth itself, yeah. So that was the two approaches that we were trying to seek here in our methodology in terms of the accountability framework. And when we were developing this accountability, we were also have to think about what is our purpose with this, because we don't actually want like to put finger in the face of the commitment holders and say, you are not doing a great job, or something like this. No, we want actually to support these commitment holders to be accountable in terms of engaging youth, showing them what are the points that they can do better in terms of engaging youth, how they can, what are the types of actions that they can implement to involve better the youth and also to fulfill their water action agenda commitment, and also share good practice, because we know that there is a lot of commitment holders that have great practices in terms of youth engagement. And this could be replicable in other places or for other commitment holders. So we want also to share these good ideas, these good practices in terms of youth engagement for the other commitment holders also can do this. So we have done a process here to achieve better this objective that was like trying to be in touch with the organization that have proposed this commitment, show them our accountability framework, explain the importance of have the youth be engaged on this, on the achievement of this commitment, and then we can actually help contributing to achieve the SDG 6 with this perspective of youth engagement and with this perspective of the future generations as well. So for that, we have created an accountability framework that is based on 7 pillars. That is responsibility. That is that means the organization itself accepting the obligation that they have in terms of engaging with youth. Answerability, that is providing explanations to the youth stakeholders for its actions. Trust, that is the confidence in the reliability and integrity of the organization. Transparency, that is the accessibility of clarity of information for youth stakeholders. Learning and continuous improvement, that is the feedback loop, resulting from lessons learned and feedback. And this for us is a great and important part of the process, because we want them not just to see what is wrong or what is good, but how can they actually improve in terms of this. And not just for their organization itself, but also, and that goes to the second pillar, that is knowledge sharing. That is actually the organization contributing to the public body to knowledge. So what are the good ideas that they have here, and then share these good ideas to other organizations as well. And finally, check and balances. That is the delimitation on the use of your authority and power. And each one of these pillars, they have supporting indicators, so people can see like exactly what does responsibility means, and they can have a more quantitative analysis of how they are actually contributing to these 7 pillars. But if the organization does not have this type of information to fulfill these supporting indicators, they can also evaluate in terms of qualitative analysis. So if they, when they are reading these 7 pillars, they can understand if they are more at a low level, a medium level, or a high level. So we have these 2 approaches that can be done. And I'm not going to pass here through all of the table that we have in terms of the pillars and the levels of low, medium, high, or the indicators, but I just wanted to show you this here. This is in the report, if you see in the annex part later. So we just have here, for example, the responsibility, that concept that I have mentioned for you before, and the company or the organization can say if they understand that they are low. For example, we have not explicitly accepted the duty of engaging the youth in realizing the commitment, or if they are medium, we explicitly accept the duty, but we have not yet done so in the course of fulfilling the commitment, or high, like we explicitly accept and we have demonstrated the same in the course of fulfilling the commitment. So these are the more qualitative assessment, or the organization can also measure, in fact, if they are doing this or not. And this is interesting, like having these indicators is interesting in terms of sometimes the organization can think that they are high, but when they look into the indicators that we have put it here, they understand that maybe they should improve somehow. So for example, indicators that we have for responsibility are the number of youth engaged with clear role in the commitment, and budget utilization rate for activities that involve youth stakeholders. And we have this for all of the pillars. So the 7 one have this description about the qualitative part and the indicators as well. And you can see this better later on the report. And then we started to apply the framework that we have developed using a still improvised survey tool, where we have developed the Google Forms with all of the indicators, how they can assess in terms of low, medium, or high. And if they have the supporting indicators, then they can put there also. And we have also tried to share this framework with some organizations. Oops, let me just go back here. With some organizations, so we can test if this was actually working or not, if we should improve some of the indicators or some of the descriptions that we have or not. And this was a really good part of the process. We have, I'm going to show it later, but we have like around 4 or 5 organizations that have picked up the time to talk to us, to discuss with us this accountability tool, and we have like good feedbacks in terms of it. And the idea of actually, after you apply the framework and you have the idea of if you are in a medium, in a low, or in a high part of each one of these pillars, how can we evaluate this then? How can we use this? So a good idea is an example that was developed by Yang, like using this spider chart, that you can see after you have the answers for your accountability tool, you can see exactly where is your low points. So for example, in this graph here, the organization, it's doing really well in terms of responsibility, in terms of learning and improvement, but it still needs to be better in terms of answerability or in trust. So with this chart, you can see exactly where you should improve in terms of having the youth participation in your commitment. And we have done all of this feedback and these sessions, interviewing and trying to apply our tool with 5 organizations. So it was Aquafed, SAE, the Asian Development Bank, the Ghana Water Company, and the H2O for All. And we have like really good feedbacks from these companies, and they have told us that the framework is useful for self-assessing their level of youth engagement, also to identify the opportunities for youth engagement and ensure that the organization is accountable, and also to gain inspiration on quantifiable indicator for youth engagement itself. So this was a really quick summary of all of the work that we have done during this extension of our fellowship. And we have all of these really good commented and really in detail here in our final report, that here you have the QR code to downloading it. And also we are planning to do a paper also on this evaluation of the commitments, on this structured review that we have done. So keep seeing what we are going to do later. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you for explaining what is the Youth Accountability Framework about. And I believe that we can start our Q&A session. We haven't received any questions in the Q&A, but maybe let me check in the chat if we have any question. And for the participants, feel free to post the questions on the Q&A. Then we can also check on them. Marina, they are all saying congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. I'm always nervous about talking in English, serious things. So I'm sorry if I have done some mistakes during the process. But I also wanted to invite the other fellows to put their perspectives in terms of this accountability as well and of the process. So I don't know if anyone of you want to take the lead.
If I may, while waiting for... Oh, sorry, Hadi, go ahead.
Thanks, Liam.
Hadi, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hadi, part of the first cohort of the IWA Grundfos Fellowship. I just wanted to add a testimony that the organizations really found this tool, this framework useful, because we presented it during the IWA World Congress in Toronto, and we did have some, during a workshop, and we did have some reactions from organizations that had submitted their action in the water action agenda, but that had no idea like which follow up, and they were really glad that there was someone looking at them, and that the young people were actually the ones that were taking the step up further to actually chase the people that make commitments. So that's my ad. Go ahead, Diane.
Thanks, Hadi. I was just going to add that the tool is primarily useful for organizations and how they evaluate themselves, self-evaluate in terms of youth engagement, according to those 7 pillars that Marina has mentioned. But it actually is also useful for us as young people and as youth organizations, and say, if we want to help youth water sector organizations to elevate youth engagement, what should we demand from them in terms of responsibility, in terms of answerability and trust? So I hope that when you read this report and look at the tool and the framework that we've developed, you think of this as our sincere attempt for coming up with a dialogue starter. How do we start to engage with water organizations? How do we start to engage with senior professionals and say, you know what, we noticed that we could do better in terms of answerability, in terms of developing trust. But the question is how? And the framework and the tool provides some of those, not just the quantitative indicators, as Marina has mentioned, but also more importantly, the qualitative ones. And if I can share to you, for example, in terms of things like transparency. What does transparency really mean? Transparency in the framework, we defined it as youth have access to readily available information, and the organizations respond to youth requests for additional information in a timely manner. It's provided in a clear language and format and content. So we tried to go into that kind of detail, but at the same time, we understand that it might have been limited. So if there are any comments to further refine the framework, we would welcome it. it's a work in progress.
It is, yeah, but I think that it's relevant to say that this framework can help a lot of organizations, especially as the Water Action Agenda is still one of the main issues that are going to be part of the next UN Water Conference in 2026. So organizations, they can choose to make commitments to the Water Action Agenda, so they can take into consideration the framework in a way that they can enhance their contributions.
And just to complement something that Yang have also said, that when we were doing this discussion with these organizations that we have found, we actually used a method also to try to see what organizations, what are the commitment holders that we wanted to talk to. So during this structured review, we have weighted the different commitments that we have according to the different points that we have presented here in the structured review. And we have selected like the top 10 that have youth engagement, or the top 10 that have financial viability, and etc. And we try to select one or two of each one of these groups that we have some contact already to present our accountability tool. And during this process, we have some of them that does not have youth engagement or like youth as partners or youth as beneficiaries in their commitment itself. And when we presented the tool for them, they were like, okay, I have never thought about this before, actually, that involving youth is important, or even how to involve youth. So they were like, this is a really great guide for us to see exactly how we connect in terms of youth engagement, and try to start thinking about including the youth on these commitments. So it was a really good feedback that we have in terms of this. And also we have some of the commitment holders that have a really good participation in terms of youth engagement and etc. And their feedback was, okay, this is actually a really good tool, and we think that these indicators actually works a lot. So it was a good feedback also in terms of the methodology that we have thought about. But for me, specifically, having this meeting with the people who do not have youth explicitly put it in their commitments, and have this feedback that this was really important to them to start thinking about this, it made my day. It was the best feedback that I have from the beginning, because I think this was our purpose.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I think
Marina. Jacob?
yeah, in addition to what Marina, Yang, and Hadi have already said, one of the things that we need to realize is that the youth space, it's just a short window of our lifespan, and it's very fluid, right? Because you can have youth who are in position of authority in the organization. So in this term, they should be answering to how they are engaging youth in their organizations. So what I'm trying to say is that this framework actually helps us as individuals and as youth who are hoping to transition into senior positions, to know where we can support the young people within our organizations to be more engaging, to also contribute to the efforts that are being made in the water industry, and also helps us, what kind of innovations can we propose to these organizations to make sure that they are able to get the youth engaged in a more meaningful way. So I think this presents an opportunity for us to be able to build something great for the water industry. Yeah.
Thank you, Jacob. Anyone else wants to contribute from the group? Anik? Chelsea?
Okay, so just one teeny tiny bit of thing. As already mentioned, that we are working to get this framework out to an even larger audience. What I would personally, like is that I see a lot of, people from the second cohort of the fellowship in this webinar also. So we need to understand that this is not something that was limited to the first cohort only. This is something bigger, and it deals with young water professionals and support people who are trying to keep YWPs on board. And then at the same time, also help the organizations and help ourselves to have a standing, so that whenever in future any important event comes up, we have concrete actions taking place instead of just words. So I would really appreciate if any one of you can, help us out in giving more feedback, extending it to your parent organizations to increase the database. And we were also talking about some plans to, have a continuous database of it hosted on a website or something. And any support in it is going to be very helpful for us and IWA also.
I lost you for a bit, Nick, but I think that the main message got in terms of this collaboration with with the second cohort. And it's good that you touched on this matter, because I have a question. Since you concluded the first cohort, the fellowship, what would be your word of advice for the fellows, for the second fellows?
Okay, should I go first? Okay, so my word of advice and, a personal feeling is that always, try to work towards something bigger. What I've learned from my fellows in this fellowship is that we entered in this fellowship with our own teeny tiny projects, but we never knew that it would turn out into something so big. So this wouldn't have been possible if there was no synergy between us. Always speak out to your fellows. What do you feel about the youth ecosystem? How can you make the system a better place? Because we know, we all know that the system needs improvement, but we also have to live in the system as well. So it's always a good idea to keep it in the back of your mind. How can you contribute to the bigger picture? And one suggestion is that always enjoy whatever you're doing, because right now it's been a few months and I'm already missing them a lot. And it always, fills me up when I see all of you on camera. But still, you never know when you're going to meet next time in person. So always try to value the moment that you have at hand, at present.
Thank you, Nick. Anyone else on this?
Well, for me, it's really hard to give like one suggestion for them, because this experience, being part of this fellowship, was such a life-changing experience, and it have affected me in so many ways, like in terms of professional ways and also personal ways. So it's hard to have just like summarize it all in one talk. But I think like it's try to make the best of all of the opportunities that this fellowship will give you, like having contacts with the people. I get to know a lot of important persons that I have never thought about meeting before, and this for me it was really important, not just for my personal development, but also in terms of thinking different outside the box of what I usually were habituated to think about. So for example, I'm an environmental engineering and I work a lot with floods, but there are people here in our first cohort that works in such different ways and in so different topics that I wasn't used to think about it at all. And I gain a lot of experiences sharing information with them, learning about what they actually do, and learning also with the experiences of the senior professionals that we will be in contact during this fellowship. So in the UN Water Conference or in the other conference that you will have, just like listen and be a, how do we say, sponge, right? And be a sponge of all of the knowledge that it will be presented to you. And also make these great connections. We say that these people from our first cohort is like our family now, and we have so many new inputs. We have now three new babies on our group, and being part of this is also so important in terms of being more tolerant also to different cultures and understanding better how different cultures work. And I think this is really important for us to have in these next years of the world, because we see so many conflicts going on and so many violence and etc. And being able to be more tolerant, to be able to talk with people that are different from us, from different cultures, I think this helps a lot also. We cannot have the SDGs fulfilled if we do not have cooperation between the different countries, even if we don't think in the same way, and even if we don't have the same culture. So yeah, I just put a lot of things from different contexts, but it really, because it was so life-changing experience for me.
Thank you, Marina. Hari?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wanted to add that this is a very selective program, and I know the people that were selected for a good reason, and they are also kind of ambassadors for their own parts of the world. So I would say just listen to your fellow youth that do not have the chance to access the spaces that you access, and listen to their needs, to their concerns on top of yours, and then make their voices louder as an ambassador. That's my add to it.
Thank you, Hari, on this. So thank you for everyone for joining. Thank you for the speakers and thank you for Marina for this presentation. In case you have not downloaded yet, I do invite you all to scan the QR code and download, and Marina also shared the link in our chat. So please check about the fellowships and download this final report and check the Youth Accountability Framework on this. In terms of upcoming IWA webinars and events, I will invite you all to join our next webinar. This is one of the main opportunities that you have within IWA to access free knowledge. So the events are organized by our SDGs, our specialist group. The next one will be on water benchmarking basics and examples of best practice. And then we will have a workshop organized by this specialist group on sustainability in the water sector. And they are really keen to have more young water professionals contributing to this initiative that they have on women in the water sector. And I know that Chelsea is here. She's also part of this specialist group. And she is also the chair of the IWA steering committee, YWP steering committee. So in case you have any concerns about the YWP community, you can always reach out to me and to Chelsea on this. And of course, I do have to remind you all about our upcoming event, the Water and Development Congress and an exhibition. If you haven't seen my background yet, you can see on my screen. So we should have time to submit our papers, and please contribute. I'm very keen to have more young people attending the event, and we already submitted some proposals from young water professionals, but I always like to see all of you more engaged in our big events, in our Tier 1 events. So check our website, check the content, and submit your contributions to the event. In case you're not an IWA member, you can scan this QR code. And if you use this code that you see on your screen, you can have a discount in our membership. So thank you everyone for joining. If you want to know more about the IWA and Water Professionals community, please follow the link that you are seeing on your screen. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me by email. So thank you, and I hope that you have a nice day. Bye.